The Strategic Mind: How to Think Ahead, Make Better Decisions, and Win at Life. Published by Timeless Audiobook. Introduction. Every meaningful victory begins in the mind long before it appears in the world. The people who consistently succeed are rarely the fastest, the strongest, or even the most talented. They simply learn to see what others overlook, prepare before others react, and make decisions that move them steadily toward the future they want. That ability is not a gift reserved for a fortunate few. It is a way of thinking that anyone can develop with patience, practice, and intention. Life presents us with thousands of decisions, both large and small. Some seem insignificant in the moment, yet they quietly shape our careers, relationships, finances, health, and peace of mind. A strategic mind understands that today's choices become tomorrow's reality. Instead of drifting wherever circumstances lead, it learns to pause, evaluate, and act with purpose. In this audiobook, we will explore the principles that allow ordinary people to think ahead, make wiser decisions, anticipate challenges before they appear, and turn obstacles into opportunities. You will discover how to recognize patterns, weigh consequences, protect your most valuable resources, remain flexible during uncertainty, and build the kind of judgment that earns trust and creates lasting success. These lessons are not based on trends or temporary tactics. They are timeless principles that have guided thoughtful leaders, successful entrepreneurs, skilled professionals, and wise decision-makers throughout history. As you listen, don't simply ask yourself what you should do differently. Ask yourself how you should begin thinking differently, because every lasting transformation starts with a change in perspective before it becomes a change in action. Over the next few chapters, you will learn how to develop a strategic mind that stays calm under pressure, sees possibilities where others see problems, and approaches every decision with greater clarity, confidence, and purpose. Your future is shaped long before it arrives, and that process begins now. Chapter 1. Think 3 moves ahead. Every meaningful achievement begins with a decision that is made before anyone else sees its value. Strategic thinking is not about predicting the future with perfect accuracy. It is about preparing for possibilities before they become realities. Imagine playing a game of chess. A beginner focuses only on the next move. A master studies the entire board, anticipating how every decision will shape the moves that follow. Life works much the same way. Every choice you make today quietly influences the opportunities, challenges, and results you will experience tomorrow. Many people spend their lives reacting. They wait until problems appear before looking for solutions. They wait until money becomes tight before thinking about saving. They wait until their health declines before exercising. They wait until relationships begin to break before investing time and attention in the people they love. Reaction may solve today's problem, but it rarely builds tomorrow's success. Strategic thinkers understand that preparation is almost always less expensive than repair. Thinking 3 moves ahead begins with asking a simple question before making any important decision. What happens next? Then ask it again and again. One answer is rarely enough. Every action creates another action, just as every stone dropped into a pond creates ripples that spread far beyond the point of impact. The strategic mind learns to follow those ripples before making a choice. Instead of focusing only on immediate rewards, it considers future consequences, hidden opportunities, and potential risks. This way of thinking requires patience, because the best decision is not always the quickest one. Modern life encourages speed. Messages demand instant replies. News changes every hour. Opportunities seem to disappear overnight. In such an environment, slowing down almost feels uncomfortable, yet wisdom often lives inside that brief pause between impulse and action. That pause gives you enough space to think instead of merely reacting. It allows emotions to settle while reason begins to speak. One of the greatest advantages you can develop is the habit of looking beyond the obvious. Whenever something good happens, ask yourself how you can build upon it. Whenever something difficult happens, ask yourself what it might lead to if left unaddressed. This simple habit shifts your attention from the present moment to the larger picture. It trains your brain to search for connections instead of isolated events. Over time, you begin noticing patterns that others completely miss. Strategic thinking also means accepting that every decision closes one door while opening another. Saying yes to one opportunity often means saying no to several others. Spending your evening learning a valuable skill means giving up an evening of entertainment. Saving part of your income today may require sacrificing a few comforts, but it creates greater freedom later. Every choice has both a benefit and a cost. The strategic mind refuses to examine only one side of the equation. Another important lesson is that not every problem deserves immediate action. Some situations improve with time, while others grow worse if ignored. Learning the difference is part of becoming a wise decision maker. Strategic people do not confuse activity with progress. They understand that solving the wrong problem can waste enormous amounts of time and energy. Before taking action, they ask whether this issue truly deserves their attention or whether something more important lies beneath the surface. It is also important to understand that thinking ahead does not mean worrying about everything that could go wrong. Strategy is not fear, it is preparation. Worry imagines problems without seeking solutions. Strategic thinking identifies possible challenges while calmly preparing for them. One weakens confidence, the other strengthens it. When you prepare thoughtfully, uncertainty becomes less intimidating because you already have a plan for responding if circumstances change. As you move through the rest of this audiobook, begin practicing one simple habit every day. Before making any meaningful decision, pause for a moment and picture yourself 3 steps into the future. Ask what this choice is likely to create, what new opportunities it may unlock, what problems it may introduce, and whether it brings you closer to the life you truly want. That single habit can transform ordinary decisions into extraordinary advantages. A strategic mind is not built in one dramatic moment. It is built one thoughtful decision at a time until thinking ahead becomes as natural as taking your next breath. Chapter 2. Choose your destination before choosing your direction. Imagine getting into a car, starting the engine, and driving for hours without deciding where you want to go. You might stay busy, you might even enjoy parts of the journey. But no matter how far you travel, you cannot arrive at a destination you never chose. Life works the same way. Activity without direction creates movement, but it rarely creates meaningful progress. Strategic people understand that before deciding what to do, they first decide where they want to end up. Many decisions become difficult because the destination is unclear. Should you accept a new job? Should you move to another city? Should you invest your time in learning a new skill? Should you say yes to another opportunity? None of these questions can be answered wisely until you know what kind of life you are trying to build. A decision that is perfect for someone else may be completely wrong for you because your destination is different from theirs. One of the greatest mistakes people make is allowing circumstances to choose their direction. They follow whatever opportunity appears first. They chase trends because everyone else seems excited. They accept invitations they never wanted simply because they dislike saying no. Slowly they discover they have spent years climbing a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. The problem was never their effort. The problem was their direction. A strategic mind begins with clarity. That clarity does not require every detail of the future to be perfectly planned. Life will always contain surprises. Your goals may evolve as you gain experience and wisdom, but you should know the kind of person you want to become and the kind of life you hope to create. Those two ideas become a compass that guides thousands of daily decisions. Garrett Sullivan understood this lesson after years of frustration. As a commercial real estate broker, he worked long hours, accepted every client who called, and constantly chased the next commission. His calendar was always full, yet his career seemed to stand still. At the end of each year, he realized he had been busy without making meaningful progress. One evening, instead of creating another list of daily tasks, he wrote a description of where he wanted to be 5 years later. He wanted to become the trusted advisor for commercial property owners in his region, rather than simply another salesperson competing for every deal. That single decision changed everything. Garrett began accepting fewer clients and focusing on building lasting relationships with business owners who matched his long-term vision. He invested time learning about commercial development, attended industry events that previously seemed unnecessary, and developed expertise instead of chasing quick commissions. At first, his progress appeared slower, but over time his reputation grew stronger, his income became more stable, and better opportunities began finding him. His daily actions finally matched his destination. The same principle applies to every area of life. If your destination is financial freedom, your spending decisions will look different from someone whose goal is immediate comfort. If your destination is excellent health, your daily habits will naturally begin to change. If your destination is becoming a trusted leader, you will pay greater attention to your character than your popularity. Your destination quietly determines the direction of your everyday choices. This is why strategic thinkers rarely compare themselves to everyone around them. Comparison creates confusion because it shifts your attention away from your own path. Someone else's success may tempt you to abandon your plan, even when your current direction is exactly where you should be. The strategic mind remembers that two people can walk in opposite directions and both be successful because they are traveling toward different destinations. Clarity also makes it easier to say no. Every unnecessary commitment becomes easier to decline when you know it does not move you closer to your purpose. Instead of asking, "Is this a good opportunity?" you begin asking, "Is this the right opportunity for the life I want to build?" That single question filters distractions before they consume your time and energy. Do not feel pressured to map every year of your future. Instead, focus on identifying the values and outcomes that matter most. Picture the person you hope to become. Think about the reputation you want to earn, the relationships you want to build, the work you want to be known for, and the legacy you hope to leave behind. Those images become guideposts that help you make wiser decisions even when the road ahead is uncertain. Every journey begins with choosing a destination. Once you know where you are going, the path becomes easier to recognize. You will still face obstacles, unexpected turns, and moments of doubt. But unlike those who wander from one opportunity to another, you will have a clear reason for every step you take. A strategic life is not built by accident. It is built by deciding where you want to arrive before deciding how you will get there. Chapter 3. Think clearly before you decide. Every decision begins long before you say yes or no. It begins with the way you think. Clear thinking is one of the greatest advantages you can develop because every result in your life is connected to a choice you once made. Some choices are small and quickly forgotten. Others quietly shape the course of your future. The challenge is that decisions are often made in moments filled with emotion, pressure, excitement, or fear. When the mind becomes clouded, even intelligent people can make poor choices. Thinking clearly does not mean thinking slowly about everything. It means learning to separate facts from feelings before reaching a conclusion. Feelings are valuable because they tell you how you are experiencing a situation, but they should not be allowed to make every decision for you. A strategic mind listens to emotions without becoming controlled by them. It acknowledges excitement without becoming reckless. It recognizes fear without becoming paralyzed. It experiences disappointment without assuming every setback is permanent. One of the simplest ways to improve your thinking is to become comfortable with the pause. In today's world, people often feel pressured to respond immediately. A message arrives and an instant reply is expected. An opportunity appears, and you feel as though you must decide before someone else takes it. A disagreement begins, and words come out before careful thought has a chance to intervene. Yet many of life's biggest mistakes happen because someone confused urgency with importance. The pause is not hesitation. It is a deliberate moment that gives your mind room to examine a situation from different angles. During that pause, ask yourself a few important questions. What do I actually know? What am I assuming? What evidence supports this conclusion? What evidence challenges it? These questions may seem simple, but they have the power to prevent costly mistakes because they force you to think instead of merely reacting. Another habit of strategic thinkers is looking beyond the first answer that comes to mind. The first explanation is not always the correct one. Imagine a co-worker who suddenly becomes distant and short-tempered. Your first thought might be that you offended them, but perhaps they are dealing with a family emergency, financial stress, or a health concern that has nothing to do with you. The mind naturally fills in missing information with assumptions, and those assumptions often become stories that feel true even when they are not. Clear thinking also requires intellectual humility. This simply means accepting that you do not know everything. Many poor decisions begin with the belief that there is nothing left to learn. Strategic people remain curious. They ask questions. They seek different perspectives. They welcome information that challenges their opinions because they care more about finding the truth than protecting their pride. The strongest mind is not the one that refuses to change. It is the one that changes when presented with better evidence. It is equally important to recognize the influence of temporary emotions. A decision made during intense anger may seem perfectly reasonable in the moment, but deeply regrettable the next day. The same is true for overwhelming excitement. Excitement can create the illusion that every opportunity is extraordinary. Fear can convince you that every risk is dangerous. Frustration can make giving up feel like the only option. Strategic thinking requires you to ask whether your current emotional state is helping or distorting your judgment. Another useful practice is to distinguish between facts and interpretations. Facts are objective. They can usually be observed or verified. Interpretations are the meanings we assign to those facts. For example, losing a job is a fact. Believing that you will never succeed again is an interpretation. Receiving criticism is a fact. Concluding that you are incapable is an interpretation. Once you learn to separate the two, many situations become far less overwhelming. You stop reacting to imagined conclusions and begin responding to reality. Strategic thinkers also resist making permanent decisions based on temporary circumstances. A difficult week does not define your entire future. One failed project does not erase years of progress. One disappointing conversation does not determine the future of a relationship. Perspective allows you to place today's problem within the larger story of your life. Often, what feels enormous today becomes a valuable lesson tomorrow. Perhaps the most powerful question you can ask before making any important decision is this: will this choice still make sense a year from now? That question shifts your attention away from immediate comfort and toward lasting value. It encourages you to think beyond the emotions of the present moment and consider the life you are building over time. As you continue developing a strategic mind, remember that wisdom rarely arrives in moments of noise and hurry. It grows in moments of careful reflection. Every time you choose clarity over impulse, evidence over assumption, and patience over haste, you strengthen your ability to make decisions that serve not only today, but also the future you are intentionally creating. Clear thinking is not a talent you are born with. It is a discipline you practice until wise decisions become your natural response. Chapter 4. Calculate the cost before you take the prize. Every opportunity carries two stories. The first is easy to see. It is the reward, the excitement, the promise of something better. The second story is quieter. It speaks about responsibility, sacrifice, hidden challenges, and long-term consequences. Many people become so fascinated by the prize that they never stop to examine its true cost. A strategic mind learns to study both stories before making a decision. Success is rarely determined by choosing the biggest reward. It is determined by choosing the reward whose cost you are willing and able to pay. Every achievement demands something in return. A successful career may require years of learning and persistence. Financial freedom often requires disciplined spending and patient investing. Strong relationships require time, forgiveness, and consistent attention. Even peace of mind has a price, because it often requires saying no to distractions, unnecessary conflict, and habits that steal your focus. The problem is not that people dislike paying a price. The problem is that many discover the price only after making the commitment. They see the promotion but overlook the longer hours. They admire the business owner but ignore the years of uncertainty behind the success. They envy someone's achievements without noticing the countless mornings they woke up early, the vacations they postponed, and the comforts they willingly sacrificed. Strategic thinkers reverse this process. Before becoming excited about the reward, they ask, "What will this require from me?" That single question changes everything. Instead of being carried away by possibility alone, you begin evaluating reality. You recognize that every opportunity is a package containing both benefits and obligations. Accepting one means accepting the other. Brooke Langford learned this lesson at an important point in her career. As an aerospace engineer, she had spent nearly a decade building a strong reputation. One afternoon, she received an offer to join an international research team working on an ambitious aerospace project overseas. The salary was significantly higher, the title carried prestige. Friends congratulated her before she had even made a decision. At first, the opportunity seemed impossible to refuse. But instead of focusing only on what she would gain, Brooke decided to calculate the full cost. She listed every consequence she could imagine. Moving overseas would mean leaving aging parents who depended on her support. It would require adapting to a different culture, building an entirely new professional network, and postponing personal plans she valued deeply. The position offered tremendous career growth, but it also demanded sacrifices that could not be measured by a paycheck alone. After weeks of thoughtful reflection, Brooke accepted the opportunity, but not because of the salary or the prestige. She accepted because she understood exactly what the decision would require and believed the long-term benefits aligned with the life she wanted to build. Years later, she often said that the clarity came not from asking, "What do I gain?" but from asking, "Am I willing to pay the price this opportunity demands?" That question gave her confidence because she entered the decision with open eyes rather than unrealistic expectations. This principle applies far beyond careers. Every meaningful choice deserves the same careful examination. Before making a major purchase, ask yourself not only whether you can afford it today, but also whether it will limit your freedom tomorrow. Before committing to a new responsibility, ask whether you have the time and energy to fulfill it well. Before entering a partnership, consider not only the potential rewards, but also how you will handle disagreements, setbacks, and unexpected challenges. One useful habit is to think beyond the first outcome. Many people stop their thinking after imagining the immediate reward. Strategic thinkers continue asking, and then what? Suppose you receive an attractive job offer. And then what? Will the workload allow time for your family? Will the new environment help you grow? Will accepting this role open better opportunities 5 years from now, or will it quietly close doors that matter more? Questions like these reveal consequences that excitement often hides. It is also important to remember that saying yes always means saying no to something else. Time, energy, money, and attention are limited. When you commit those resources in one direction, they are no longer available somewhere else. This is why wise people guard their commitments carefully. They understand that opportunity cost is real, even when it cannot be seen. Every hour invested in one pursuit is an hour unavailable for another. Sometimes the greatest strategic decision is declining an attractive opportunity. That can feel uncomfortable because turning something down often creates the fear of missing out. Yet every successful person has learned that not every good opportunity is the right opportunity. The ability to walk away from something impressive in order to remain faithful to something more important is a sign of maturity, not weakness. As you continue developing a strategic mind, train yourself to look beneath the surface of every decision. Do not allow bright rewards to distract you from hidden responsibilities. Study both the prize and the price with equal care. When you understand the true cost before making a commitment, you replace regret with confidence. Wise decisions are not made by chasing what looks best in the moment. They are made by choosing the future whose cost you are prepared to embrace. Chapter 5. Read the patterns others ignore. The future rarely arrives without warning. Long before major changes become obvious, they leave behind small clues. A conversation sounds different. A habit begins to change. A market slowly shifts. A relationship grows quieter. A routine that once worked starts producing weaker results. These signals are easy to overlook because they often appear ordinary at first. Yet strategic thinkers understand that the biggest events in life are usually preceded by subtle patterns that quietly reveal what is coming next. Reading patterns is not about predicting the future with perfect accuracy. No one can do that. It is about paying close attention to recurring behaviors and recognizing that what happens repeatedly is rarely an accident. Every action leaves evidence. Every decision creates momentum. When you learn to notice these patterns, you begin making decisions based on direction rather than isolated moments. Imagine standing on the shore of a river. If you only look at the water directly in front of you, you will see constant movement, but understand very little. Step back, however, and you begin noticing the current, the bends in the river, and the direction it consistently flows. Life is much the same. Individual events can seem random, but when viewed together, they often reveal a clear trend. Many people become trapped because they judge situations based on a single experience. One good day convinces them everything is improving. One difficult day makes them believe everything is falling apart. Strategic minds resist this temptation. They ask a different question. Is this an isolated event, or is it part of a larger pattern? That simple question creates a calmer and more accurate perspective. Consider your own habits. Missing one workout will not determine your health. Saving a little less money this month will not decide your financial future. Reading one chapter of a book will not instantly make you wiser. But repeat those actions consistently over months and years, and a pattern begins to emerge. Eventually, that pattern becomes your reality. Success and failure are rarely sudden. They are usually the visible result of invisible patterns repeated over time. The same principle applies to people. Character reveals itself through consistency, not occasional behavior. Anyone can appear kind for one afternoon or disciplined for 1 week. The true measure of a person is found in what they repeatedly do when no one is watching or when circumstances become difficult. Strategic thinkers learn to observe actions more carefully than promises. Words may describe intentions, but patterns reveal character. Businesses, careers, and entire industries also move according to patterns. A company that ignores changing customer needs may enjoy temporary success, but eventually the consequences appear. A professional who keeps learning new skills remains valuable while others struggle to keep up. Someone who consistently builds strong relationships often discovers opportunities appearing naturally because trust has been growing quietly for years. These outcomes are not accidents. They are the predictable results of repeated actions. Reading patterns also protects you from making emotional decisions. Suppose you receive criticism from someone you respect. Your first reaction may be disappointment or frustration. But instead of focusing on the single comment, ask yourself whether a pattern exists. Have several people offered similar advice over time? If so, the criticism may contain valuable truth. On the other hand, if the comment completely contradicts years of positive feedback, it may deserve less influence. Looking for patterns helps you respond wisely instead of emotionally. Another valuable habit is paying attention to small changes before they become large problems. Many difficulties begin quietly. A neglected responsibility becomes a missed deadline. A missed deadline becomes a damaged reputation. A few unnecessary expenses become mounting financial pressure. A lack of communication slowly weakens a friendship or a marriage. Strategic thinkers recognize these early signals and respond while solutions are still simple. They understand that small corrections made early often prevent major crises later. Developing this awareness requires slowing down enough to observe. Modern life encourages constant movement, leaving little time for reflection. Yet reflection is where patterns become visible. At the end of each week, ask yourself a few thoughtful questions. What repeated actions moved me closer to my goals? What habits consistently distracted me? Which conversations energized me and which ones drained me? What challenges keep appearing in different forms? Answers to these questions reveal trends that might otherwise remain hidden. One of the greatest advantages you can develop is becoming a student of cause and effect. Whenever something succeeds, do not simply celebrate the result. Ask what pattern produced it. Whenever something fails, do not stop at disappointment. Search for the repeated choices that led there. This approach shifts your attention away from luck and toward understanding. It teaches you that outcomes are usually connected to habits, decisions, and behaviors that have been unfolding for much longer than you realized. As you continue building a strategic mind, remember that wisdom often belongs to those who notice what others overlook. While many people focus only on today's events, train yourself to observe the quiet patterns shaping tomorrow. Learn to see consistency where others see coincidence, direction where others see confusion, and opportunity where others see ordinary moments. The future may never announce itself loudly, but it almost always whispers before it arrives. Those who learn to hear those whispers are the ones who stay one step ahead. Chapter 6. Create advantages before you need them. Waiting until opportunity arrives is one of the surest ways to miss it. Strategic people understand that success is often decided long before the moment everyone notices it. The promotion is earned before the interview. The thriving business is built before the market expands. The confident leader is developed before a crisis demands leadership. While others prepare only after the opportunity appears, strategic thinkers prepare before they have any guarantee that the opportunity will ever come. Preparation may seem ordinary because it rarely receives applause. No one celebrates the hours spent learning a skill before it becomes useful. Few people notice the relationships you patiently build over the years. Quiet habits of reading, practicing, saving, and improving yourself often happen in private. Yet these invisible investments eventually become visible advantages. What appears to be sudden success is usually the result of long periods of preparation that no one else saw. Think of a tree planted in rich soil. For a long time, very little seems to happen above the ground. It would be easy to believe nothing is changing, but beneath the surface, roots are spreading wider and deeper. Those roots determine how tall the tree can eventually grow and how well it can survive strong winds. Your preparation works the same way. Every skill you develop, every lesson you learn, and every relationship you strengthen becomes part of an invisible foundation that supports future success. Many people make the mistake of preparing only when circumstances force them to. They wait until they lose a job before updating their skills. They wait until business slows before expanding their network. They wait until financial pressure appears before learning how to manage money wisely. This kind of preparation is reactive. It may solve immediate problems, but it often comes with unnecessary stress because time is no longer on your side. A strategic mind asks a different question. What can I strengthen today that will benefit me tomorrow? That question changes the way you use your time. Instead of focusing only on urgent tasks, you begin making room for important investments that may not produce immediate rewards, but create lasting advantages. You stop thinking only about today's responsibilities and begin building tomorrow's opportunities. Logan Prescott understood the value of this principle long before it was tested. As the principal of a high school, he noticed early signs that student enrollment in the district was slowly declining. Other schools dismissed the trend, believing it would correct itself. Logan saw it differently. He knew that lower enrollment could eventually reduce funding, limit educational programs, and affect the quality of opportunities available to students. Instead of waiting for the problem to become unavoidable, he began strengthening the school's position. He partnered with local businesses to create internship opportunities, expanded communication with parents, introduced new academic programs, and encouraged teachers to develop innovative classroom experiences. None of these changes produced dramatic results overnight. In fact, some people questioned why he was investing so much effort when the school still seemed stable. 2 years later, several neighboring schools struggled as enrollment continued to fall. Budget cuts became unavoidable and difficult decisions followed. Logan's school faced the same challenge, but the partnerships, reputation, and programs he had built earlier attracted new families and additional community support. His preparation had created options while others were scrambling to react. What looked like excellent leadership during the crisis was actually the reward for strategic thinking long before the crisis arrived. This lesson extends into every part of life. Building strong relationships before you need help creates a network of trust that cannot be assembled overnight. Learning communication skills before leading a team makes leadership far more effective. Saving money before unexpected expenses appear gives you freedom instead of panic. Improving your health before illness becomes a concern increases both your resilience and your quality of life. Strategic people prepare during seasons of stability because they understand that difficult seasons eventually come to everyone. Creating advantages also means becoming the kind of person opportunities naturally seek. Employers value people who continue learning without being told. Friends trust people who consistently keep their promises. Clients return to professionals who solve problems with reliability and integrity. These qualities cannot be developed at the last minute. They grow through repeated choices made long before recognition arrives. Another advantage comes from learning skills that remain valuable regardless of changing circumstances. Technology evolves, industries change, markets rise and fall, but the ability to communicate clearly, think critically, solve problems, build trust, and adapt with confidence remains valuable in every generation. Strategic thinkers invest in these timeless abilities because they know they will continue paying dividends throughout life. Perhaps the greatest advantage of all is confidence born from preparation. Confidence built on hope alone disappears when pressure arrives. Confidence built on preparation remains steady because it is supported by experience, practice, and thoughtful effort. When an important opportunity finally appears, you are not relying on luck. You are relying on everything you have already done to prepare for that moment. As you continue developing a strategic mind, stop asking only whether you are ready for today's responsibilities. Ask whether you are preparing for tomorrow's possibilities. The work you do before it becomes necessary is often the work that changes your future. Every book you read, every skill you practice, every relationship you strengthen, and every wise habit you build becomes another advantage waiting quietly for the right moment. By the time opportunity knocks, your greatest work should already be behind you, allowing you to open the door with confidence and step forward prepared. Chapter 7. Master the mind that makes every decision. Every strategy, every plan, and every action begins in the same place, your mind. Before you change your career, improve your finances, strengthen your relationships, or pursue a meaningful goal, you first make a decision. And before every decision comes a thought. This is why mastering your mind is one of the greatest strategic advantages you can ever develop. A person who cannot guide their own thinking will eventually allow emotions, impulses, or outside influences to guide it instead. Many people believe the biggest obstacles in life exist around them. They blame difficult circumstances, challenging people, or unfortunate timing. While those things certainly matter, the greatest obstacle often exists within. Fear exaggerates risks. Pride refuses helpful advice. Anger demands immediate action. Doubt whispers that success belongs to someone else. None of these voices are facts, yet they have the power to influence decisions that shape an entire lifetime. A strategic mind recognizes that thoughts deserve examination before they deserve belief. Just because an idea enters your mind does not mean it is true. You may think you are not capable enough, not experienced enough, or too late to begin. You may assume someone dislikes you simply because they seemed distracted during a conversation. You may believe one setback defines your future. These thoughts can feel convincing, but feelings are not always faithful messengers of reality. One of the healthiest habits you can develop is learning to question your own thinking. When a strong emotion appears, ask yourself what created it. Is it based on evidence or is it based on assumption? Are you responding to what actually happened, or to the story your mind has constructed about what happened? These questions create distance between your emotions and your decisions. They give wisdom an opportunity to speak before impulse takes control. The human mind naturally looks for shortcuts. This ability helps us make quick decisions in familiar situations, but it can also lead us into error. Sometimes we judge a person's character after only one meeting. Sometimes we assume the future will resemble the past, without considering that circumstances have changed. Sometimes we notice only the information that supports our existing beliefs, while ignoring evidence that points in another direction. Strategic thinkers remain aware of these tendencies because they understand that a mind left unchecked can quietly become its own greatest obstacle. Another important discipline is learning to manage your attention. Your mind becomes stronger or weaker depending on what you repeatedly feed it. If every day begins with endless distractions, constant negativity, or comparisons with others, clear thinking becomes difficult. On the other hand, if you regularly expose your mind to thoughtful ideas, meaningful conversations, and moments of quiet reflection, your judgment naturally improves. Just as healthy food strengthens the body, healthy ideas strengthen the mind. This does not mean avoiding every negative thought. Difficult emotions are part of being human. The goal is not to pretend fear, disappointment, or frustration do not exist. The goal is to prevent them from becoming permanent residents in your thinking. Strategic people acknowledge their emotions, learn from them, and then move forward. They refuse to build their identity around temporary feelings. Self-awareness is another powerful quality of a strategic mind. Many people understand the habits of others better than they understand their own. They can quickly recognize impatience, pride, or poor judgment in someone else while remaining blind to those same tendencies within themselves. Growth begins when you become willing to observe your own patterns honestly. What situations cause you to lose patience? What kind of criticism immediately makes you defensive? What fears repeatedly influence your choices? Honest answers to questions like these reveal where your thinking can become stronger. It is equally important to guard against mental exhaustion. A tired mind often mistakes the easiest decision for the best one. After a long day filled with pressure and constant demands, even small choices can feel overwhelming. This is why wise people protect moments of rest and reflection. They understand that clarity requires mental space. Constant busyness may create the appearance of productivity, but it often weakens judgment by leaving no room for thoughtful consideration. The people around you also shape the way you think. Every conversation, every book you read, every voice you regularly listen to leaves an impression on your mind. Spend enough time around people who constantly complain, and you may begin expecting disappointment everywhere. Spend time with thoughtful, responsible, and optimistic people, and your own perspective gradually changes. Strategic thinkers choose their influences carefully because they know that repeated exposure eventually becomes habitual thinking. Perhaps the greatest sign of a disciplined mind is the ability to remain calm when others become reactive. Calmness is not weakness. It is controlled strength. It allows you to see options that panic hides and solutions that anger ignores. While others rush toward conclusions, you remain steady enough to gather information, evaluate possibilities, and choose your response deliberately. As you continue building a strategic mind, remember that every external victory begins with an internal one. The quality of your decisions will never consistently rise above the quality of your thinking. When you train your mind to question assumptions, manage emotions, protect attention, and remain calm under pressure, you create a foundation for wiser choices in every area of life. Master your mind first, and your actions will begin to reflect the clarity, confidence, and purpose that true strategic thinking requires. Chapter 8. Turn every obstacle into strategic leverage. Every obstacle asks you a question. It does not ask whether life is fair or whether you deserved the difficulty. It asks something far more important. What are you going to do with this? That question separates people who remain trapped by their circumstances from those who use adversity as a stepping stone. A strategic mind understands that while obstacles cannot always be avoided, they can almost always be used. History is filled with people who transformed setbacks into opportunities, but this ability is not reserved for extraordinary individuals. It is built through a simple shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" strategic thinkers ask, "What can this teach me?" The first question looks backward. The second looks forward. One keeps you focused on the problem. The other begins searching for a solution. This does not mean pretending that every difficulty is enjoyable. Disappointment is real. Failure hurts. Unexpected changes can create uncertainty and stress. A strategic thinker does not ignore these emotions or rush past them. Instead, they acknowledge reality while refusing to let it become the final chapter of the story. They understand that accepting a setback is very different from surrendering to it. One reason obstacles become so overwhelming is that people often view them as dead ends instead of crossroads. A dead end suggests there is nowhere to go. A crossroads offers choices. You may need to change direction, adjust your pace, or rethink your approach, but progress is still possible. Strategic thinking turns obstacles into moments of evaluation rather than moments of defeat. Autumn Reeves discovered this truth during one of the most demanding periods of her career. As an emergency room physician, she was accustomed to working under pressure, but when several experienced nurses left the hospital within a short period, staffing shortages created daily challenges. Waiting times increased, workloads became heavier, and frustrations spread throughout the department. Many people believed the only solution was hiring more staff, yet qualified candidates were difficult to find. Rather than accepting the situation as impossible, Autumn gathered her team and began studying every step of their daily workflow. They discovered that many delays had little to do with the shortage itself. Certain paperwork processes were repeated unnecessarily. Equipment was stored in locations that wasted valuable minutes. Communication between departments often created avoidable confusion. By reorganizing procedures, simplifying routine tasks, and improving coordination, the team significantly reduced delays without adding more employees. The staffing shortage was still real, but it forced the hospital to examine problems that had existed unnoticed for years. What first appeared to be a crisis eventually became the reason the entire department operated more efficiently. Autumn later realized that if the challenge had never occurred, those improvements might never have been made. The obstacle had revealed an opportunity hidden beneath the surface. That is often how strategic leverage works. A setback exposes weaknesses that success quietly hides. When everything is going well, there is little motivation to question familiar routines. Difficult seasons force you to look more closely. They reveal outdated habits, ineffective systems, and assumptions that no longer serve you. While these discoveries may be uncomfortable, they are also valuable because they point toward meaningful improvement. Obstacles also teach resilience, a quality that cannot be developed in comfortable circumstances alone. Confidence built only on easy victories is fragile. The first major setback can quickly shake it. But confidence built through overcoming difficulties becomes steady because it is supported by experience. You begin trusting not only that challenges will come, but also that you have the ability to respond wisely when they do. Another important principle is refusing to waste a difficult experience. Every disappointment contains information. Every mistake reveals something worth learning. Perhaps you discovered a weakness in your planning. Perhaps you relied too heavily on one source of income, one client, or one strategy. Maybe you ignored warning signs that now seem obvious in hindsight. Instead of viewing these lessons as reasons for regret, treat them as tuition. Valuable lessons often come with a price, but once learned, they can prevent far greater losses in the future. Strategic thinkers also understand that obstacles often create opportunities that did not previously exist. A career setback may encourage you to develop skills you had postponed for years. A failed business idea may lead you toward a stronger one. A disappointing outcome may introduce you to people, experiences, or insights that reshape your future in ways you could never have planned. While you cannot control every event, you can always control whether you remain open to the possibilities hidden within it. There is another advantage to approaching challenges strategically. Obstacles slow you down, and sometimes that is exactly what you need. During busy seasons, it is easy to continue moving in the wrong direction simply because you never stop to evaluate your path. A setback interrupts that momentum. It gives you an opportunity to ask whether your current approach is still the best one. Sometimes the greatest progress begins with the courage to change course. As you continue developing a strategic mind, remember that obstacles are not merely barriers standing in your way. They are opportunities inviting you to think differently. They challenge your creativity, strengthen your judgment, and refine your character. Every difficulty contains a choice. You can allow it to become a permanent limitation, or you can use it as leverage to rise higher than before. The obstacle itself does not decide the outcome. Your response does. When you learn to look beyond the problem and search for the advantage hidden within it, even life's hardest moments become part of your strategy for long-term success. Chapter 9. Guard your resources like a strategist. Every successful strategy begins with understanding one simple truth. Your resources are limited. No matter who you are, you receive only so much time, energy, attention, money, and mental focus. You cannot create more hours in a day, and you cannot perform at your best if your energy is constantly scattered. Strategic thinkers recognize this reality early. Instead of trying to do everything, they learn to protect what matters most and invest it where it creates the greatest return. Many people think of resources only in terms of money. Money is certainly important, but it is only one part of the picture. Time is a resource. Your health is a resource. Your reputation is a resource. Your knowledge, relationships, emotional strength, and ability to concentrate are all valuable assets. In many situations, these resources are even more valuable than money because once they are lost, replacing them can take years. Imagine receiving a large sum of money with one condition: every dollar you spend is gone forever. You would probably think carefully before making each purchase. Yet every morning you receive something even more valuable than money. You receive 24 hours. Once they are spent, they cannot be earned back. Every unnecessary distraction, every meaningless argument, and every habit that steals your attention quietly consumes a resource that no amount of wealth can replace. Strategic people develop the habit of asking an important question before committing themselves. Is this worth the resources it requires? Notice that the question is broader than asking whether something is enjoyable or profitable. A new opportunity may promise a financial reward, but will it demand so much time that your family suffers? A commitment may bring recognition, but will it drain your energy so completely that other important goals begin to decline? Looking at the full cost of every decision helps you protect the resources that truly matter. Attention deserves special protection because it influences every other resource. Whatever consistently captures your attention eventually shapes your thinking, your habits, and your decisions. A distracted mind struggles to recognize opportunities or solve complex problems. It becomes easier to react impulsively because there is little mental space left for thoughtful reflection. This is why strategic thinkers create environments that support concentration. They understand that protecting attention is not about avoiding work, it is about making sure their best mental energy is invested in the work that matters most. Energy is another resource that people often underestimate. There are days when you have enough enthusiasm to tackle difficult challenges, and there are days when even simple tasks feel exhausting. Wise people learn to recognize these patterns. They schedule important work during periods when their minds are sharpest and reserve routine activities for times when their energy naturally declines. Rather than fighting against their own rhythm, they work with it. This allows them to produce better results without constantly feeling overwhelmed. Your relationships also require wise investment. Every conversation, every promise, and every shared experience either strengthens or weakens the trust between you and others. Strategic people understand that meaningful relationships are built over time through consistency. They do not treat trust carelessly because they know it is difficult to rebuild once broken. Instead of spreading themselves too thin across countless superficial connections, they invest deeply in relationships built on honesty, respect, and reliability. Financial resources deserve the same thoughtful approach. Money is more than something to spend. It is a tool that creates choices and opportunities. Strategic thinkers avoid asking only, "Can I afford this?" They also ask, "Will this purchase move me closer to or farther from the future I want?" Those two questions often lead to very different decisions. Small, thoughtful financial choices repeated over many years create stability and freedom, while careless spending can quietly limit future possibilities. Learning when to say no is one of the greatest ways to guard your resources. Every yes automatically becomes a no to something else. Saying yes to another meeting may mean saying no to uninterrupted time for meaningful work. Saying yes to unnecessary commitments may mean saying no to rest, learning, or time with the people you care about. Strategic thinkers do not reject opportunities because they dislike helping others. They decline the wrong opportunities so they can fully commit to the right ones. There is also great value in leaving margin in your life. Many people fill every hour with activity until there is no room left for unexpected opportunities or important reflection. A strategist understands that empty space is not wasted space. It provides room to think, adapt, recover, and respond wisely when circumstances change. Without margin, even small surprises can become overwhelming because every resource has already been consumed. Protecting your resources is not about becoming overly cautious or fearful. It is about recognizing that every investment should support the life you are intentionally building. A farmer does not scatter seeds carelessly across barren ground. Each seed is planted where it has the greatest chance to grow. Your time, energy, attention, money, and relationships deserve the same level of wisdom. As you continue developing a strategic mind, remember that success is not determined only by what you gain. It is also determined by what you choose to protect. Guard your resources with intention, invest them with wisdom, and refuse to waste them on things that offer little lasting value. When you treat your resources as precious assets rather than endless supplies, your decisions become clearer, your priorities become stronger, and your future becomes far more secure. Chapter 10. Separate critical decisions from minor ones. Every day your mind makes hundreds of decisions. Some are so small that you barely notice them. Others quietly shape the direction of your life for years to come. The problem is that many people treat these decisions as if they all deserve the same amount of attention. They spend 20 minutes deciding what to have for lunch, but only a few moments deciding how to spend the next 5 years of their career. A strategic mind understands that not every decision carries the same weight. Wisdom begins when you learn to distinguish between what is merely urgent and what is truly important. Think about the decisions that have changed your life the most. Choosing your profession, selecting the people you trust, deciding where to live, managing your finances, caring for your health, and building your daily habits. These decisions create consequences that last for years, sometimes for decades. In comparison, many of the choices that consume your attention each day have very little lasting impact. The strategic thinker learns to protect mental energy for the decisions that deserve careful thought. One reason people become overwhelmed is because they give equal importance to everything. Every email feels urgent. Every request seems impossible to decline. Every unexpected problem appears to demand immediate attention. Before long, the mind becomes exhausted from constantly switching between dozens of small choices. When an important decision finally arrives, there is little mental clarity left to handle it wisely. Strategic people simplify the decisions that do not matter so they can focus on those that do. They create routines for ordinary tasks instead of reconsidering them every day. They organize their schedules, establish healthy habits, and develop consistent systems that reduce unnecessary thinking. This is not because they dislike making decisions. It is because they understand that mental energy is a valuable resource that should not be wasted on questions with obvious answers. A useful habit is to ask yourself, will this decision still matter 1 year from now? If the answer is no, it probably does not deserve hours of worry. If the answer is yes, then slow down and give it the thoughtful attention it deserves. This simple question creates perspective. It prevents small inconveniences from stealing energy that should be reserved for choices with lasting consequences. Miles Donovan discovered the power of this principle during a demanding period in his career. As a wildlife biologist leading conservation projects across several states, his days were filled with constant requests. Team members asked for approvals, government agencies requested reports, community groups sought meetings, and unexpected field issues seemed to arise almost daily. By the end of each day, Miles felt exhausted, yet he often realized that the most important strategic work remained unfinished. One evening, he reviewed everything that had occupied his attention during the previous month. He noticed a surprising pattern. Many of the decisions consuming his time had very little impact on the long-term success of the conservation projects. Meanwhile, larger questions such as developing partnerships, securing future funding, and protecting critical habitats were repeatedly postponed because they required uninterrupted thought. Miles decided to change his approach. He delegated routine approvals to trusted team members, created standard procedures for common issues, and reserved specific blocks of time for decisions that would influence the future of the projects. At first, it felt uncomfortable to let others handle tasks he had always managed himself, but as the weeks passed, he noticed a remarkable difference. His team became more capable, major projects moved forward with greater clarity, and he finally had the mental space to think strategically instead of constantly reacting. His experience highlights an important truth. Leadership is not about making every decision yourself. It is about making sure the right decisions receive your best thinking. Whether you lead a company, a family, or simply your own life, the principle remains the same. If every issue receives the same amount of attention, the truly important ones will never receive enough. Strategic thinkers also understand that some decisions deserve patience. Society often celebrates speed, but speed is valuable only when combined with wisdom. A quick decision about a small matter can save time. A rushed decision about a major life choice can create years of regret. Knowing the difference is one of the marks of maturity. Before making an important commitment, allow yourself enough time to gather information, consider alternatives, and reflect on the possible consequences. Another helpful practice is identifying your decision filters. These are the principles you refuse to compromise, regardless of the situation. For example, you may decide never to sacrifice your integrity for financial gain, never to neglect your health for temporary success, or never to damage important relationships in pursuit of recognition. When your values are already clear, many difficult decisions become surprisingly simple because you are no longer negotiating with yourself in moments of pressure. It is also wise to accept that perfection is rarely possible. Waiting for complete certainty can become another form of indecision. Strategic thinking is not about knowing everything before acting. It is about gathering enough reliable information to make the best decision available, then moving forward with confidence while remaining willing to adjust if new evidence appears. A wise decision made at the right time often creates better results than a perfect decision made too late. As you continue building a strategic mind, remember that the quality of your future depends far more on a handful of important decisions than on thousands of minor ones. Learn to recognize which choices deserve your deepest attention, protect your mental energy from unnecessary distractions, and build simple systems for the routine parts of life. When you stop treating every decision as equally important, you gain the clarity to focus on the ones that truly shape your destiny. Chapter 11. Never depend on a single path. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing there is only one way forward. They become so attached to a single plan, one opportunity, one source of income, one relationship, or one solution that when something changes, their entire world feels as though it has collapsed. A strategic mind thinks differently. It understands that commitment to a purpose is important, but commitment to only one path can become a dangerous limitation. Imagine climbing a mountain. Your goal is to reach the summit, but halfway up the trail is blocked by a landslide. You have two choices. You can stand there insisting that this was the only route, or you can look for another path. The destination has not changed. Only the route has. Strategic people recognize this distinction. They remain faithful to their purpose while staying flexible about how they will achieve it. Life rarely unfolds exactly as planned. Careers change, industries evolve, technology reshapes entire professions. Unexpected illnesses, economic shifts, and personal circumstances can alter your plans without asking for permission. If your success depends entirely on one possibility, you leave yourself vulnerable to forces beyond your control. But if you develop multiple options, change becomes far less frightening because you are never standing on a single foundation. This does not mean living without commitment or constantly changing direction. In fact, the opposite is true. Strategic thinkers are deeply committed to their long-term vision. What they refuse to become attached to is the belief that only one method can lead them there. They understand that flexibility is not a sign of uncertainty, it is a sign of wisdom. Think about a skilled sailor crossing the ocean. The sailor cannot control the wind, but can adjust the sails. When the wind changes direction, the destination remains the same, yet the approach changes. Fighting the wind accomplishes nothing. Working with changing conditions makes progress possible. The same principle applies to your life. You cannot control every circumstance, but you can always choose how you respond. Having more than one path also creates confidence. Consider someone whose entire financial security depends on a single paycheck. Losing that job could create immediate panic. Compare that to someone who has developed additional skills, built professional relationships, saved wisely, or created another source of income. The second person still faces challenges, but they also have choices. Options reduce fear because they expand your ability to respond. The same idea applies to learning. If you build your identity around only one skill, you may struggle when your industry changes. But if you continually develop new abilities, you become adaptable. Communication, leadership, problem-solving, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence are valuable across nearly every profession. These timeless skills give you multiple paths because they remain useful regardless of changing circumstances. Strategic thinkers also avoid placing all their emotional well-being into one area of life. Some people tie their entire identity to their career. Others depend completely on one relationship or one achievement for their sense of purpose. When that single area is shaken, everything else feels unstable. A balanced life creates resilience. Meaningful work, healthy relationships, personal growth, service to others, and strong values work together to create a foundation that is far more difficult to break. Creating alternatives requires imagination. Instead of asking, "What is my only option?" begin asking, "What else is possible?" This simple question encourages creativity. It reminds you that the first solution is rarely the only solution. Sometimes a setback simply forces you to discover an opportunity you would never have considered otherwise. It is equally important to prepare alternatives before they become necessary. Waiting until a crisis arrives limits your choices because pressure narrows your thinking. During calm seasons, your mind has the freedom to explore possibilities, build new skills, strengthen relationships, and create contingency plans. By the time unexpected challenges appear, you already have options available instead of scrambling to invent them. There is another benefit to having multiple paths. It allows you to negotiate from a position of strength rather than desperation. Whether you are considering a job offer, a business partnership, or an important life decision, having alternatives changes the way you think. You are no longer forced to accept the first opportunity simply because it is the only one available. Instead, you can evaluate each option thoughtfully and choose the one that best aligns with your long-term goals. However, having multiple paths should never become an excuse for constant indecision. The goal is not to chase every opportunity at once. It is to create enough flexibility that you are never trapped by a single outcome. Once you choose your direction, commit to it fully while remaining aware that if circumstances change, another route may still lead you to the same destination. As you continue building a strategic mind, remember that strength is not found in predicting every challenge perfectly. It is found in preparing yourself to respond wisely regardless of what happens. Build skills that travel with you. Invest in relationships that endure. Create financial stability where you can. Continue learning even when life feels comfortable. Every additional capability becomes another path available to you when circumstances shift. The future belongs to those who remain steady in purpose, yet flexible in approach. Keep your eyes fixed on the destination, but never convince yourself that only one road can take you there. When one door closes, a strategic mind does not waste time staring at it. It calmly begins looking for another entrance, confident that the journey is far from over. Chapter 12. Change your tactics without changing your mission. One of the greatest strengths of a strategic mind is knowing the difference between a mission and a method. Your mission is the destination you are committed to reaching. Your methods are simply the roads you choose along the way. Many people confuse the two. They become so attached to one particular plan that when circumstances force a change, they feel as though their entire purpose has been lost. A strategist understands that changing your approach is not the same as abandoning your goal. Think of a river making its way toward the ocean. It rarely travels in a perfectly straight line. It bends around rocks, changes direction, widens, narrows, and sometimes even splits into different channels before continuing its journey. Yet despite all those adjustments, the destination remains the same. The river succeeds not because it refuses to change course, but because it never forgets where it is going. Life constantly asks you to make similar adjustments. A career path that once seemed certain may suddenly disappear. A business plan may no longer fit the market. A personal goal may require new skills that you did not originally expect to learn. None of these situations mean you have failed. They simply mean reality has changed and your strategy must evolve with it. Many people resist change because they mistake flexibility for weakness. They believe changing direction means admitting they were wrong. In truth, refusing to adjust when circumstances clearly demand it is often the greater mistake. Strength is not found in stubbornly repeating the same actions. Strength is found in recognizing when a different approach will produce a better result. Nina Hollowell understood this lesson every day she reported to work. As an air traffic controller responsible for coordinating one of the nation's busiest airports, she knew that every flight plan represented an intention, not a guarantee. Pilots departed with carefully designed routes, but changing weather, unexpected congestion, and technical issues often required immediate adjustments. If controllers insisted on following the original plan regardless of changing conditions, chaos would quickly follow. Instead, Nina learned to remain calm while constantly reassessing the situation. She redirected aircraft when storms developed, adjusted schedules as traffic increased, and communicated clearly with every pilot involved. The destination for each flight remained unchanged, but the route often had to be modified several times before landing safely. Her success depended not on rigidly following a plan, but on protecting the mission while adapting the tactics. The same principle applies far beyond aviation. Imagine someone determined to improve their financial future. They may begin with one business idea that ultimately fails. A rigid thinker concludes the dream is over. A strategic thinker asks, what else can accomplish the same mission? Perhaps a different business model, a new profession, or additional education opens another path toward the same objective. The mission survives because the person refuses to confuse one failed method with the end of the journey. This mindset also prevents unnecessary discouragement. When people define success too narrowly, every unexpected change feels like defeat. But when they focus on the larger mission, obstacles become invitations to adapt. They stop asking, why isn't my original plan working, and begin asking, what approach fits today's reality? That small shift creates enormous resilience because it turns change into part of the strategy rather than an enemy of it. Strategic thinkers regularly evaluate their methods instead of assuming they will always remain effective. They ask honest questions. Is this habit still helping me? Has this strategy outlived its usefulness? What has changed in my environment that requires a different response? These questions prevent them from becoming trapped by outdated routines. What worked 5 years ago may not be the best solution today, and wisdom lies in recognizing the difference. At the same time, flexibility should never become constant inconsistency. There is a difference between thoughtful adaptation and chasing every new trend. Some people change direction so often that they never make meaningful progress. Every obstacle sends them searching for an entirely different dream. A strategist does not abandon the mission whenever life becomes difficult. Instead, they patiently improve the methods while remaining firmly committed to the destination. Another important quality is emotional steadiness during change. Unexpected events often create anxiety because they force us into unfamiliar territory. Yet panic rarely produces good decisions. Calmness creates space for clear thinking. When circumstances shift unexpectedly, resist the urge to react immediately. Gather information, study the situation, consider your options, then choose the response that best serves your long-term purpose. Adaptation guided by wisdom is always stronger than reaction driven by fear. It is also helpful to remember that every adjustment teaches you something valuable. Each change reveals new skills, expands your experience, and strengthens your judgment. The road you originally planned may have taught you discipline, while the unexpected detour teaches creativity. Together, these experiences prepare you for challenges that your original plan could never have anticipated. In this way, flexibility does more than solve immediate problems. It quietly develops the kind of wisdom that only experience can provide. As you continue building a strategic mind, refuse to become imprisoned by your own plans. Hold your mission firmly, but hold your methods with an open hand. Let purpose remain constant while allowing strategy to evolve. Circumstances will change. Opportunities will appear unexpectedly. Obstacles will force adjustments you never anticipated. None of these changes have the power to stop you unless you believe there is only one way forward. The strategic mind understands that success belongs not to the person who never changes course, but to the one who never loses sight of the destination. Chapter 13. Become the person people trust to decide. The greatest compliment you can receive is not that you are intelligent, talented, or successful. It is that people trust your judgment. When important decisions must be made, they seek your advice. When uncertainty fills the room, they look to you for clarity. When emotions begin to rise, your calm presence brings confidence. This kind of influence cannot be purchased, inherited, or demanded. It is earned through years of consistently making wise decisions and living with integrity. Trust is built one decision at a time. People pay far more attention to what you repeatedly do than to what you occasionally say. Anyone can make one good decision by chance. Anyone can appear confident during easy moments. But strategic thinkers develop a reputation because they consistently demonstrate sound judgment across many different situations. They become dependable, not because they are perfect, but because they are thoughtful, balanced, and reliable. One of the foundations of trustworthy judgment is consistency. Imagine crossing a bridge every day. You trust that bridge because it supports you every single time. If it was strong one day and unstable the next, you would hesitate before stepping onto it again. Character works in much the same way. People gain confidence in you when your values remain steady, regardless of changing circumstances. They know your decisions are guided by principles rather than convenience. Strategic people understand that every choice quietly shapes their reputation. A small promise kept strengthens trust. A commitment honored when no one is watching strengthens it even more. On the other hand, repeated excuses, careless words, and broken commitments slowly weaken the confidence others place in you. Reputation is rarely built through one dramatic event. It grows through hundreds of ordinary moments in which you choose honesty over shortcuts, responsibility over excuses, and wisdom over impulse. Another quality that earns trust is the willingness to listen before speaking. Many people believe influence comes from having the fastest answer. In reality, wise decision-makers spend more time understanding a situation than rushing to solve it. They ask thoughtful questions, they gather information, they consider perspectives different from their own. This does not make them indecisive. It makes them informed. People naturally trust those who seek understanding before offering conclusions. Humility also plays a vital role. It may seem surprising, but people often trust someone who admits, "I don't know." more than someone who pretends to have every answer. Humility communicates honesty. It shows that your goal is not to protect your pride, but to reach the best possible decision. Strategic thinkers are confident enough to admit uncertainty because they understand that pretending to know everything eventually destroys credibility. Another mark of sound judgment is emotional steadiness. During moments of pressure, people observe not only the decisions you make, but also how you make them. Do you panic when circumstances become difficult? Do you allow anger to control your words? Do you become impatient when others disagree? Or do you remain calm enough to think clearly while everyone else reacts emotionally? Calmness inspires confidence because it signals that your decisions are guided by reason rather than temporary feelings. Strategic thinkers also understand the importance of fairness. They avoid making decisions based solely on personal preferences or emotions. Instead, they evaluate situations according to consistent principles. Whether leading a family, managing a team, or serving a community, fairness creates trust because people know they will be treated with respect and integrity. Even those who disagree with your decision are more likely to accept it when they believe it was made honestly and thoughtfully. It is equally important to recognize that trustworthy judgment grows through experience. Every success teaches you something valuable, but so does every mistake. The difference is that strategic people refuse to waste their failures. They examine them carefully, accept responsibility where necessary, and use those lessons to improve future decisions. This willingness to learn makes their judgment stronger over time. They become wiser not because they never fail, but because every failure becomes a teacher instead of an excuse. Influence also comes from thinking beyond yourself. Self-centered decisions may provide short-term benefits, but they rarely earn lasting respect. Strategic thinkers ask how their choices will affect other people. They consider families, co-workers, communities, and future generations. This broader perspective leads to decisions that create trust because people recognize genuine concern rather than personal ambition. Remember that becoming someone people trust does not require holding an impressive title. You do not need to lead a large company or occupy a public position. Every parent, friend, teacher, employee, entrepreneur, neighbor, and volunteer has opportunities to become a trusted decision-maker. Influence begins wherever people observe your actions. Each conversation, each promise, and each difficult choice becomes another opportunity to strengthen the confidence others place in your judgment. As you reflect on everything you have learned throughout this audiobook, understand that strategic thinking is about far more than personal success. Its highest purpose is becoming the kind of person whose wisdom benefits everyone around you. When people trust your decisions, opportunities naturally increase. Relationships become stronger, and your influence extends far beyond your own achievements. In the end, the most valuable legacy is not simply a record of successful decisions. It is becoming a person whose judgment helps others make better decisions as well. Chapter 14. Live one step ahead. Every chapter of this audiobook has pointed toward one central idea. A strategic mind is not something you switch on only when facing a major decision. It is a way of living. It becomes part of how you think, how you plan, how you respond to challenges, and how you shape your future. The greatest strategists are not constantly searching for clever tricks or complicated techniques. They simply develop habits of thinking that keep them one step ahead, day after day, year after year. Living one step ahead does not mean trying to predict every detail of the future. The future will always contain surprises. Unexpected opportunities will appear. Unplanned setbacks will interrupt your carefully arranged schedule. Circumstances beyond your control will occasionally change the direction of your journey. The goal is not to eliminate uncertainty. The goal is to become the kind of person who is prepared to face uncertainty with clarity instead of confusion. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is ending each day with reflection and beginning each day with intention. Before the day is over, take a few minutes to ask yourself simple but meaningful questions. What decisions did I make well today? Where did I react instead of think? What lesson should I carry into tomorrow? Reflection transforms experience into wisdom. Without reflection, the same mistakes are often repeated because nothing has been learned from them. The following morning, begin with intention rather than reaction. Instead of allowing messages, news, or other people's priorities to immediately capture your attention, remind yourself of what truly matters. Ask yourself what deserves your best thinking today. Which decisions could shape your future? Which actions move you closer to the person you want to become? Starting your day with purpose allows you to lead your time instead of being led by it. Strategic living also requires patience. Modern culture celebrates speed. Everyone wants immediate progress, instant results, and quick solutions. Yet many of life's greatest achievements develop quietly over long periods. Trust is built one conversation at a time. Knowledge grows one lesson at a time. Financial stability develops through years of wise decisions. Strong character is formed through repeated choices made when no one is watching. The strategic mind understands that consistency often accomplishes what intensity never can. Another lifelong habit is remaining curious. The moment you believe there is nothing left to learn, your growth begins to slow. Every person you meet knows something you do not. Every experience, whether pleasant or painful, contains a lesson worth discovering. Strategic thinkers remain students throughout life because they understand that the world continues changing, and wisdom requires continual learning. Curiosity keeps your mind flexible, while pride quietly locks it in place. Living one step ahead also means protecting your perspective. Temporary setbacks should never become permanent conclusions. A disappointing week does not define your future. A difficult conversation does not erase years of trust. A failed attempt does not mean your mission has failed. Strategic people refuse to judge their entire journey based on one chapter. They remember that every meaningful story contains moments of uncertainty before reaching its conclusion. It is equally important to surround yourself with people who encourage thoughtful living. The people closest to you influence your expectations, your habits, and your standards more than you may realize. Seek relationships with individuals who challenge you to think clearly, act responsibly, and continue growing. Healthy friendships do more than provide encouragement. They sharpen your judgment by offering perspectives you may never have considered on your own. Never forget that every decision creates momentum. A single wise choice may seem small today, but repeated over months and years, it becomes a powerful force shaping your future. Likewise, small careless decisions can quietly accumulate until they produce consequences you never intended. This is why strategic living is built on ordinary moments. It is found in the conversations you choose to have, the books you choose to read, the habits you choose to practice, and the promises you choose to keep. There will be moments when you feel uncertain. You will not always have perfect information. Sometimes two options will both appear reasonable. At other times, neither choice will seem ideal. In those moments, return to the principles you have learned throughout this audiobook. Think beyond the present. Remember your destination. Separate emotion from evidence. Study consequences before acting. Recognize patterns. Prepare before opportunity arrives. Protect your resources. Create alternatives. Adapt without abandoning your purpose. Let these principles become the foundation beneath every important decision. Finally, remember that winning at life is not about defeating other people. It is about becoming a wiser version of yourself. True success is measured by the quality of your decisions, the strength of your character, the trust you build with others, and the positive influence you leave behind. When your life is guided by wisdom instead of impulse, preparation instead of panic, and purpose instead of distraction, success becomes more than an occasional achievement. It becomes a natural result of the way you think. A strategic mind is not built in one remarkable decision. It is built through thousands of ordinary choices made with extraordinary intention. Every day gives you another opportunity to think a little further, choose a little wiser, and prepare a little better than you did yesterday. Continue doing that, and over time you will discover something remarkable. You are no longer reacting to life as it happens. You are quietly shaping the future before it arrives, living one thoughtful decision at a time. Conclusion. Every meaningful journey eventually reaches a point where learning must become living. This is that moment. The ideas you've heard throughout this audiobook were never meant to remain interesting thoughts or inspiring principles stored somewhere in your memory. Their true value begins only when they become part of the way you think, decide, and act every single day. A strategic mind is not something you are born with. It is something you build. It grows each time you pause before reacting. It becomes stronger each time you choose long-term wisdom over short-term comfort. It develops every time you refuse to let emotions make decisions that should be guided by reason. Like any valuable skill, it improves through consistent practice rather than occasional effort. Think back to the beginning of this audiobook. We started with a simple but powerful idea. Successful people are not simply lucky. More often than not, they have learned to think differently. They see consequences before others notice them. They prepare before opportunities appear. They study patterns instead of isolated events. They understand that every decision, no matter how small, quietly shapes the future they will eventually live. As you listened, you discovered that strategy is not about controlling everything that happens to you. No one can do that. Unexpected challenges will continue to appear. Plans will occasionally fail. Circumstances will change without warning. New obstacles will replace old ones. But while you cannot control every event, you can always control the quality of your thinking. And when your thinking improves, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your actions improve. Over time, your entire life begins to move in a different direction. Perhaps the greatest lesson of all is that your future is rarely decided by one dramatic moment. It is shaped by ordinary decisions, repeated consistently over time. The choice to prepare instead of procrastinate, the choice to listen instead of assuming, the choice to invest instead of consume, the choice to learn instead of complain. These moments may seem too small to matter, but they are exactly where extraordinary lives are built. Never underestimate the power of a thoughtful pause. A few moments of careful reflection before making an important decision can save years of regret. One wise conversation can strengthen a relationship that lasts a lifetime. One new skill can open doors that remain closed to others. One disciplined habit can quietly transform your health, your finances, your career, or your character. Great change often begins with surprisingly small decisions made consistently. As you continue through life, remember that every season requires strategy. Success requires strategy. Failure requires strategy. Growth requires strategy. Even waiting requires strategy. There will be times when moving forward is the right decision. There will also be times when patience is the wiser choice. Knowing the difference is one of the greatest forms of wisdom you can develop. Do not compare your journey with someone else's. Every person begins from a different place, faces different challenges, and pursues a different purpose. Your responsibility is not to win someone else's race. Your responsibility is to become a little wiser than you were yesterday. If each day you think more clearly, prepare more intentionally, and make slightly better decisions than before, the results will compound in ways that are almost impossible to imagine today. There will also be moments when you make mistakes. Accept them without allowing them to define you. Every strategist has chosen poorly at times. Every successful person has experienced disappointment, uncertainty, and failure. The difference is not that they avoided mistakes altogether. The difference is that they learned from them. They refused to repeat the same lesson twice. They allowed experience to sharpen their judgment instead of weakening their confidence. Keep your mind curious. Keep your values steady. Keep your purpose clear. Continue asking thoughtful questions. Continue learning from people who challenge your thinking. Continue preparing for opportunities long before they arrive. Protect your time, your energy, your attention, and your integrity as carefully as you would protect your greatest treasures, because in many ways, they are. One day, someone may look at your life and describe you as fortunate. They may admire your success, your confidence, or your ability to remain calm under pressure. They may never see the thousands of quiet decisions that made those qualities possible. They will not see the moments when you chose patience over impulse, preparation over comfort, or wisdom over convenience. But you will know the truth. You will know that your future was not created by chance. It was created by choice. So as this audiobook comes to an end, let it also become a beginning. Begin looking beyond the obvious. Begin thinking 3 moves ahead. Begin making decisions that your future self will thank you for. Begin treating every challenge as an opportunity to grow wiser. Begin living with greater intention than ever before. Because the greatest advantage you will ever possess is not extraordinary talent, perfect timing, or endless resources. It is the ability to think before you act, to prepare before you need to, and to remain guided by purpose when circumstances change. That is the power of a strategic mind, and starting today, it can become yours.